This is Time Signatures with Jim Ervin, a podcast and radio program presented by the Capital Area Blues Society in Lansing, Michigan.
Driving up and down these Michigan roads, yeah.
And now, here he is, your host, Jim Ervin.
Baby, I'm home.
Well, hi there, and welcome to Time Signatures. I'm your host, Jim Ervin. Now, I want you to imagine for a moment that you have the coolest gig around. Now, I don't care what it is. Just know that you're doing something that you love every single day. And let's toss in that you're also working with some legendary musicians while you're at it. Today's guest has such a job. He is stage manager and guitar tech for not only Buddy Guy, that position alone would be cool, but also working with another one of the hottest blues musicians on the planet, Christone Kingfish Ingram. I'm pleased to introduce you all to Connor Korte. Connor, welcome to Time Signatures, man. How are you?
Doing good. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. This is really cool.
Well, I'm glad to have you. I've seen your work a couple of times because I've gone to see Buddy twice now. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. But I want to start at the beginning for you, Connor. What influenced you to pursue this line of work to begin with? And how long ago did you get into it?
Well, I started guitar teching when I was in my early 20s. I worked at a music store, and I was the guitar manager and the in-house guitar tech. I worked alongside Fender and Gibson and Martin and Taylor, even Orange and like Rickenbacker. So, being trained by them and having even just the reps come in and learning about the instruments and the woods and how the instruments are put together and all that good stuff, it piqued my interest. And it kind of started from there. But, even starting at 4 years old, I started playing guitar. So guitar has always been my go-to instrument. Out of all the instruments that are around in the world, that's the one thing that stuck with me. So being able to work at a music store and being around all these different guitars, vintage, new, people bringing in guitars that were sitting in a closet for over 2 decades or something like that need to be cleaned up and worked on. It piqued my interest. And starting out touring, it wasn't specifically guitar teching. It was starting as a stagehand and then going into monitors and going into front of house, and then, including guitar teching in bands that I toured with. And then, with this position with Buddy and my last 2 tours before this, it was starting going into the realm of instrument teching. So guitar, drums, whatever it may be. And I kind of went back full circle and went back to guitars. So that's kind of, where it all started. But touring, I started doing it around, I think I was about 21, 22, something like that. And now I'm turning 30, so close to 10 years. And it's been a ride for sure.
Talk about that first gig, knowing what was on the line, that first show when you started doing your touring. That had to be an absolute pressure cooker and event for you, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. My first tour was with a major tour, I should say. I've toured in vans and traveled with guys traveling around, and we were just doing gigs here and there in little bars. But my major tour, I was a monitor engineer for a guy named Masego. He's I wouldn't say rap, but more, he has his own genre. So it's like, he calls it trap house jazz. So there's saxophone, there's drums, there's guitar, there's bass, there's 2 background singers, the whole 9 yards. And I was the monitor engineer for it. And that first gig was very, very scary, so to say. Big theater in Boston, starting out in Boston, and full bus, full trailer, stepping into a whole world that I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And let's just say I had a drumstick thrown at me that first show. So it was it was rough, but you learn. I mean, that's the whole whole process. Someone gives you a chance, and you run with it, and wherever it takes you, it takes you. And yeah, I mean, that first gig touring professionally was definitely stressful for sure.
I can imagine. Now, look, I get it. You're a professional. You've got a ton of responsibility each day in your job. But be honest with me for a minute. Do you ever have a pinch me moment where you stand off stage watching Buddy and Kingfish and whomever you work with playing and taking care of their audience each evening?
Uh, that moment, I joke around about this with a lot of people. That moment still hasn't hit me.
Okay.
I still haven't gotten the chance to sit back and realize what position I'm in. And it's not a selfish thing. It's more so this is my line of work, and it's like anybody going to work every day. It's not like I'm sitting at an office job and being like, "Oh my God, I'm doing what I love to do, and this is, I want to be an accountant or I want to be an insurance person or whatever." So being in the realm of touring, sure, there's some moments where I kind of sit back and I'm like, wow, this is crazy. But most of the time it's just my head's in the game and I'm watching the artist, and I have to
Yeah.
be on my toes at all times in case something happens.
Yep.
But there, for instance, a moment that comes to mind is meeting Carlos Santana and having him tickle my ear before, watching coming on stage to watch Buddy Guy play at the New Orleans Jazz Festival, which is
Wow.
memorable, and
Yeah.
surprising me. Greg, Buddy's son, tickles my ear, and I look over on this side, and there's Carlos Santana, laughing, and because I was so focused. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, the dreams that I've had that I wouldn't even imagine coming true, and they do. And still haven't gotten the chance to just sit back and realize what I do for a living is it's crazy. Crazy line of work for sure.
Yeah. Well, I have to imagine that your work with Buddy is bittersweet, especially knowing that this is the damn right farewell tour. Yes.
Mhm. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
Now,
Um,
go ahead.
farewell. Who knows what will happen next year or so on into the future, but it's bittersweet. Absolutely, with Buddy for sure.
Well, I know that they've been talking that he's still going to do his residency and in Chicago at Legends, which is cool.
Yep.
Um, but when he's not on the road and you don't have another gig, what do you do? Do you work at Legends as well and do some things there?
So initially I started running sound at Legends. That's kind of how I got my not foot in the door, but just being around the family
Sure.
and uh and and working around Buddy. That's kind of where it all started. But I haven't run sound there since I started being on the road with Buddy. So it's been a while. I geez, probably like a year and a half ago, I got called in to just cover somebody. But when I'm not on the road and touring, of course I'll go down and see Buddy and hang out with him and shoot the crap with him. But most of the time I'm either spending time with my loved one or um, being in the studio and producing records. That's kind of where I've piqued my interest the most for sure.
Very cool. Now, take us into your daily work if you can, Connor. I've seen you prep the stage for Buddy twice now, and it's a
Mhm.
nonstop. I mean, I've watched you work, but this time around, a couple weeks ago, I paid special attention as you did your work, and you really have a lot to get done before he takes the stage. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and there's a lot to do before, I mean, even prepping for Buddy is a lot. So my day-to-day routine is, get up, we're on our bus, so we get to the hotel, we drop our luggage off. We usually get to the hotel the day of. Or if we have a day off before, we'll be there the night before. But let's say we're driving in and it's a show day, we drop our luggage off. We probably have about 30 to 45 minutes before we have to get back on the bus and head to the venue. So I drop my stuff off, get back on the bus, head to the venue. Get to the venue, we have to, check everything, check the venue, check the layout of the stage. And my main job, as stage manager, is making sure we have a clear pathway for cases to run through. How many stagehands we have,
Sure.
what are their qualifications? Are they even qualified? Because most of the time, I mean, it's a hit or miss with some of these stagehands. So talking to the production manager, talking to the GM, even sometimes, talking to the stage manager of the club or the venue, and then looking to see what route for even a walkout for Buddy. Making sure a riser's set up and placed where it needs to be. And then it's head to the trailer and dump at 1 o'clock. And I'm there with our lighting guy, who's also the drum tech, Eli. So he's in the trailer with me dumping. And then Sage, our production manager, monitor engineer, is on stage, kind of pointing kind of where cases all need to go. Max is either on stage or kind of dealing with Max, who's our tour manager, is kind of in front of house engineer, dealing with, getting green room set up and getting all that stuff situated. Dump the trailer. As soon as the trailer's closed, I run in to the back to the bus to grab Buddy's guitar, because we keep his main guitar on the bus with us just for temperature control and for safety, really.
Sure.
So grab that and then go in the club, put the guitar on stage right, go to my guitar amps and get hands and tell them what they need to do and start setting up. And then once everything's set up and ran and get my world set up, and we do sound check. The band comes in, we do sound check. After sound check, either we have an opener, or it's Tom. And if it's Tom, the drummer, and he does the opening set, then I could take down the carpet and, get everything else ready to go. If it's not Tom, then we gotta take the carpet up, we gotta take the monitors up, we gotta take all the cables up. And then I go into after sound check, and whether or not we have to move stuff around, I gotta set up Buddy's guitars. And the process of Buddy's guitars will take me about 35 to 40 minutes, maybe even longer, depending on what happens.
Wow. Yeah.
And even with stretching strings, getting it to my comfortability, and changing batteries, and getting Guitar World just set up in general. And then I gotta get Buddy's mugs, his cognac mugs cleaned, and get towels. He needs 2 damp towels, so to get whatever's on his fingers off and have a
Yeah.
nice grip on the pick. I got to get everyone else stage towels and waters with the labels ripped off of them, because unfortunately, with pictures, endorsements, and all that other stuff,
Yep.
that's just
Yep.
something I've been trained to do, is just take the labels off of the waters. And then hopefully, and then I have a security meeting. So I have a security meeting with all the security and the production manager. So kind of go through the walkthrough and kind of Buddy's routine throughout the show, as well as talk about photos and unfortunately, with the world we live in, active shooter and fire and
Yeah.
kind of Buddy's routine of, as soon as he gets off stage, he's gone. I mean, he doesn't stick around. Make sure he gets in his runner's car and he's good to go, and making sure I have enough security personnel when I'm out in the audience. And then it's showtime. And then there might be time where I have enough time to go in my bunk and maybe take a 30-minute cat nap, or even just get something to drink or eat or whatever. There's that time period where I can do that. And then showtime or changeover. Really, it's either I gotta throw down the rug, I gotta tape the rug all the way around to make sure he doesn't trip. I gotta tape the cables running from the back of the amps to the front of the monitors, tape all that stuff up, and then spike all of it really with bright neon tape so that he can see where the cables are, so he doesn't trip.
Sure.
Because the
Yeah.
way he walks, it's not he's 88, so the way he
Yes.
walks, not picking up each foot, it's sometimes he drags his feet. So just making sure that he's got a clear stage, and if there are cables, they're taped down and spiked. and then turn on the amps and turn on our rack and just tune the guitar, stretch the strings. I'm still stretching. I mean, even at the opener, I'm over there stretching strings because Buddy's a hard player. So
Yeah.
um then once all that's done, amps are there. I fill his coffee mug up with a little bit of cognac, put that out there, make sure he's got tissues, make sure he's got baby powder ready to go on the side of the stage. Turn on the guitar, play a little bit, and just make sure I'm getting noise. Go up to the amps, kind of go between each amp to make sure that there's no issues with them. And then turn the guitar all the way off, volume knob off, tone all the way up, tone all the way up on the neck pickup. I got 5 minutes, and the 5 minute mark is where I go down and get Buddy and let him know, knock on the door. Hey, you got 5 minutes, and then he either tell me I'll be right out or I'm ready to go, and we hit the stage. And as soon as we hit the stage, I have my flashlight with me. Depending on if we're at an outdoor venue, I might keep the guitar in the Guitar World guitar vault so that temperature changes don't mess up the strings and they go out of tune and all that other stuff. But if we're in a venue and the temperature is the same throughout the entire building, then I'm no worries, but I'll bring the guitar with me. And then we walk to stage and I take baby powder, put it on Buddy's hands. One of his hands, he holds out like this, put a little bit in here. He shakes it and then rubs it on his finger or, on his fingers. And then I give him a damp paper towel. Or no, first I give a pick. And then I give him a damp towel that he takes with his pick hand and rubs on the towel so he gets a better grip on his fingers. And then I either give him a tissue so he can blow his nose, and then a sip of cognac, and then it's radio showtime, and then off he goes.
Very cool.
So it's a lot. It is a lot of work.
Yeah.
That's my day-to-day routine.
And just when you think the prep work is done, now the real work begins because you are in charge of making sure that the guitars keep going to him as he changes or needs, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, most of the time he plays one guitar, and most, if not all the time, he plays one guitar. Occasionally I might surprise him with a polka dot and he'll be like, okay. And I tell him, if you don't like it, then you can give it back and I'll give you back a guitar that you're really comfortable with.
Right.
But yeah, keeping an eye on him is really the main thing to make sure that he's safe on stage and comfortable and has no issues. And he's always asking me, how much time he has left. And I have a countdown clock right by me that lets me know, hey, I started as soon as that intro music hits, and I'll let you know, whatever time. If you ask me how much time I got left, I'll let you know. So it's really just kind of keeping him comfortable.
I was backstage momentarily when I arrived at the theater in Kalamazoo a couple of weeks ago. And I remember one of your coworkers backstage telling me that you're like the stage manager, Buddy's luthier, a sound tech. He said, you literally do it all.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, watching how you work with him, and I've seen you interact with him and taking a guitar out to him and, looking for, bad cables, broken strings, whatever. You're the guy. You're the guy no matter what. At the end of the day, it's your responsibility to make sure that everything flows perfectly for him. And all right. So you work with Buddy, you work with Kingfish. Any other notable musicians or bands that you've worked with since you started, and any favorites along the way?
In my career, I've worked with a lot of musicians, but Buddy and Kingfish are like my go-to. I mean, they're my favorite so far. Excuse my voice. I got allergies, so I'm like constantly clearing my throat.
Completely understand, man. Same here.
So yeah, I mean, Buddy for sure. I mean, he's taken me places I've never even thought I'd be. But I've worked with, for instance, bands, starting out doing little bars here and there, opening up for even big musicians playing in amphitheaters and arenas and things like that. And nothing compares to this, because even if it's just Buddy himself, but it's the camaraderie of crew I mean, crew and other band members. I mean, we're a family. So this for sure is the tippity top of my career of level, I guess, of touring. But I've worked with a band called Black Pistol Fire. I've worked with a band called Rah Rah Riot. I was with Masego. I was with the band called Superorganism, Brother LZ. I mean, and then there's other garage bands or whatnot. But
Right.
that's kind of, and then now in Buddy and Kingfish. So it's just moved on down the line, you know.
Well, Connor, with all this excitement in your daily work life, what does a day off look like for you? Because I know you get precious few of them in the touring community.
Mhm.
It looks like your calendar is pretty busy. I think you told me you had a 5 day stretch here. But
Yep.
what do you do to decompress from the road, man?
Well, if I am, let's say I have an off day on the road in general. Usually, what I'll do is I'll hit up Dan, our keyboard player, who's like one of my best buds on the road, and Sage and Eli, and we go out to eat or we go see a movie, or we just take the day to ourselves and we just relax. You know, sometimes you just need that alone time. But on my days off, off the road and being home, it's more so either, spending time with my girlfriend or flying down to Austin to spend time with my family, who currently just moved back down there. Or, being in the studio and producing musicians and working on albums for younger musicians that are coming up in the blues realm and creating a record label of my own and
Nice.
creating incredible music for decades to come. Or so it's a hit or miss. I mean, my days I kind of plan my days out, but I kind of don't. I kind of just kind of see where things go.
Well, I think that, and correct me if I'm wrong, because your life is so structured during that touring time, it probably feels nice not to have everything locked in and buttoned up, right?
Sometimes, I think anybody in the tech realm or even, any position in touring, it's kind of nice to have structure. You have Master Tour on your phone and you can look at your schedule and it tells you exactly where you're going to be and what time things are and then you
Wow.
get home and it's like, okay, it's already 5 o'clock. Should I go eat dinner? Should I, it's adjusting. So it's just adjustment. But
Sure.
you know,
Well, Connor, looking back over your incredible career thus far, could you imagine doing anything else?
I always, I went to school for audio engineering at Columbia College here in Chicago. I always wanted to be, on tour. I mean, that's kind of my dream was to be on tour, even when I was younger. Going to see people like Peter Frampton or AC/DC
Sure.
or anybody of those genres. Seeing them live and seeing the crew work and being like, man, that's what I want to do. Oh, there's a bus. Oh, they're all, behind stage. And that's just what I wanted to do, is be on tour. But guitar teching is something it wasn't not just an option. It was another avenue because in our line of work, you have to have other skills and
Sure.
you have to be an asset to other different positions. um, so wanting to be a front of house engineer, that's kind of like where I wanted to be, but I'm totally happy being a guitar tech. I'd much have rather be on stage and not have the pressure of, let's say, 50 or 5,000 people and the sound goes out or something happens, and then
Oh.
I'd rather have one person mad at me than that.
Connor, any special moments that you care to talk about? I mean, I can imagine you've had some really cool things happen along the way already, but I just got to ask.
Yeah. Um, you know, couple instances, taking a private jet to do the Jim Irsay experience, which was incredible. I mean, I would never even imagine getting on a private jet, let alone twice. You know, I've done it 2 times. And meeting just incredible musicians that I've listened to over the years. You know, Billy Gibbons and
Wow.
Carlos Santana
Yeah,
and
tell that story, man. We were talking about before we went to air.
yeah. So
I
yeah, I mean,
didn't mean to interrupt you. You've got to share that story. It's wonderful.
yeah, so New Orleans Jazz Fest with Carlos Santana. We were opening up for him the last time we played there. Buddy was on stage, and you know, Carlos Santana and Buddy are very close friends. You know, I'd met Carlos in the green room and getting Buddy and brought him on stage. Buddy's playing. You know, I'm stretching strings on his yellow and purple polka dot guitar, and I feel a tickle. Was it on? I think on this ear, and that was Buddy's son Greg. He tickled my ear, and I looked this way. There's nobody there, so I thought somebody was playing a joke on me. Right? I look over this way, and there's Carlos Santana smiling at me, and you know, he rubbed my back, and he was like, "Oh, I'm just kidding." And then he walked and he watched Buddy play the entire set. You know, and Carlos Santana's people are so nice. You know, Tim Meck, who's Carlos's guitar tech, was so generous and so kind. His whole camp is super kind. You know, they put a chair out. I was watching Carlos the entire set. You know, and yeah, it was just an incredible experience, man. I mean, that's something, you know, I have a video of somebody who's sitting kind of behind us in like the viewing area, and they took a video of it. And I like, still to this day,
Oh, wow.
it's crazy. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Well, listen, if there's anyone out there that's looking to hire an incredibly talented stage manager down the way, I know you're busy right now, but where would somebody go to get information about Connor Korte?
Yeah, so you can go on Instagram, Kort as in Tom E. That's where you can find me there. And then Facebook, Connor Korte, Korte there too as well. Connor, not an E. Yeah, you can find me in those 2 places. And also, if you wanted to watch vlogs of touring for us for Buddy Guy, you can look up Buddy Guy crew vlogs on YouTube. There's tons of videos out there of us on the road that I've filmed over our years of going to Australia or Europe or even in the States. So,
Well, Connor Korte, my sincere thanks for taking some of your free time to chat with me. That's not been lost on me. I want you to know that. But thank you so much for joining me today on Time Signatures, and continued good luck to you, sir.
thank you, sir. I appreciate you.
All right. Well, I appreciate you too. That wraps up this edition of Time Signatures with Jim Ervin. Once again, my deepest appreciation to Connor Korte for being here with us today. But more importantly, I want to thank you for being here, because if it wasn't for you being here and listening and paying attention and watching, none of this would be possible. And please do me a favor and make sure you subscribe to our channel as well. Jim Ervin reminding you that keeping the blues alive is everyone's responsibility, but preserving the history of the blues one story at a time is my mission. Until next time, so long.
This has been Time Signatures with Jim Ervin, presented by the Capital Area Blues Society in Lansing, Michigan. For more information on cabs, visit capitalareablues.org. You can find this episode and past episodes at lccconnect.org. The Time Signatures theme song, Michigan Roads, is used by permission and was written by Root Doctor, featuring Freddie Cunningham.
You know I'm trying, baby, driving up and down these Michigan roads, yeah.
Until next time, keep on keeping the blues alive.